On-the-scene video coverage of TCT 2012 is supported by Pradaxa.
We're back. I'm Peter Blanc for On-the-Scene Video here at TCT in Miami. TCT 2012, that is. On my far left is a new player in this group, George Dangus. George is from Mount Sinai, an old friend. Tony DeMaria is back. Tony's the editor of Jack, and on my immediate left, Deepak Bach once again. So this time we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're not going to talk about specific trials, although there is one trial that right now, as we are doing this, is being presented, the RADIAL-STEMI trial. And I'm going to ask George to weigh in on that at the end. But let me go around the panel and say, looking back at TCT late-breaking trials, what's hot? What was been the good things that have come out of this?
So there's a lot of interesting data presented here, but I think the trial that did the most for me was the Partner B trial, or rather the
3-year follow-up.
Yeah, the 3-year follow-up, thank you. The 3-year follow-up from Partner B, which was of course the patients that weren't eligible for surgery. And we've already seen the 1-year and the 2-year data, but I do think the 3-year data moved the field forward substantially because it shows durability of effect. And a lot of people were worried and said, well, you know, this new technology, is it going to hold up in the way that a surgical valve holds up? And even though the mortality was high in both arms, there's still a substantial, large difference in all-cause mortality. And I think that means a lot. Okay,
Tony, if you had to pick a trial or two, what would you pick?
Well, I think that in terms of the issue that the closure device trials addressed an important issue, but in terms of data that might change practice, I think the sirolimus-eluting, the paclitaxel-eluting balloon might in fact change practice because, let's face it, we're looking for ways to get rid of metal, and this may be one.
And in the United States, we simply don't have a drug-eluting balloon yet. And you know, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. Maybe this is going to push us over the cliff and finally get the FDA to approve it. George, give me a quick thought about maybe STEMI-RADIAL that's being presented right now. What do you think?
It's a very interesting study, and clearly the embargo rules affect sometimes the how fast we can talk about the studies. And the STEMI-RADIAL would be the 3rd study in a row to show some mortality benefit in addition to decreasing bleeding, if it's positive. And that's quite a bit of confirmation there. And either sub-study, some of them before, and this dedicated study, I think will be quite a body of evidence, and perhaps in meta-analysis we may start finding a significant mortality benefit in addition to decreased bleeding. That's going to be quite a big news, if positive still. And several hospitals may have to now look into routinely starting a routine STEMI PCI via radial access. On the other hand, if it's negative, then the previous data, mostly sub-study generated, would probably be questioned, and it will be an equipoise between femoral and radial access during STEMI, with the only difference being that some few less access site bleeding in the radial without much more going. So I think one way or the other is going to affect how people think about STEMI PCI.
I'm going to raise my hand and say, I'm not sure I'm happy going from the radial if somebody's in trouble and in cardiogenic shock and I may need an intra-aortic balloon pump or to bail out with multiple wires and so forth. I just don't quite get I know patients love it, but I don't quite get being possibly less safe for alternate ways to help a patient if you really need to in a hurry. But we'll see what the data show.
I'm with you, because for patient convenience, length of stay, definitely it's a winner. But for a sick acute STEMI patient, those aren't the primary concerns.
Yeah. It's always been a bit difficult for me to understand the pathophysiological benefit of using this artery instead of that one, but...
well, they bleed less. I mean...
right.
Well, they bleed less and that's it, perhaps. And in the big study, they tried to prove something more, and that sort of failed. So we know it doesn't really do anything else but decrease bleeding. The question was, is decreased bleeding during an AMI have an impact in mortality? And that is really what they're trying to prove here. And we're going to see, they support it or it gets disproved. I think it's going to be an interesting result.
Okay, so I want to go around the table one more time. We've pretty much banged up RESPECT and PC, the PFO closure trials. Final version on RESPECT and PC, George. Throw it away, this is a useless thing to do, or not?
I think they were both not so supportive of a routine closure of the defects. I think they come back with some sub-study of a particular population that may benefit, then that can be revisited. But as a routine, I think the questions is quite a bit.
Tony?
I agree. As a general strategy, no. But for selected populations, there's probably some value.
Do we need another trial?
You know, I hate to say it because I know there are PFO closure enthusiasts out there. I may even be sitting next to some, but the truth of the matter is, you know, there have been 2 clearly negative trials, and RESPECT didn't meet its primary endpoint, so one would have to say 3 negative trials. I think there's some positive signals in RESPECT, but I think we need a confirmatory trial.
So whether or not anyone's going to come up to the plate and put the money out, I would doubt it. All right, thank you very much, and thank you for joining us. Come back and join us once again at AHA in 2 weeks. I'm Peter Block signing off for On the Scene Video.